Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, our source material is, well, it's a technical spec sheet. We're looking at the Aurora Multimedia DTX-AMP25-M. It's a Dante amplifier. And here's the thing. It's absurdly small, it's only 25 watts, and it comes in at almost $500. So our mission today is to figure out why. Why is this tiny box such a big deal for commercial audio?
Exactly. This isn't really a deep dive about raw power or wattage. It's about networking. And procurement strategy, we're basically looking for those aha moments in the tech specs that justify that price tag.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The central feature here is it's a 25-watt mono amplifier with Dante ES67, and it's powered by something called PoE plus Ocean. You see that $498 price? And you have to ask, 25 watts, isn't that, pretty underpowered for a commercial job?
That's the conventional thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
But the focus here isn't on sheer volume. It's on something called node density. And more importantly, installation labor costs. Dante, for instance, means you can stop running all those expensive shielded audio cables everywhere. Audio just becomes, data on the network.
And the power over Ethernet plus the PoE plus that changes the whole calculation.
It fundamentally changes it.
Because that means just one cable, one standard network cable, handles both the audio data and the 25 watts of power.
Precisely. You completely eliminate the need for an electrician to run separate power to every single speaker location. Think about installing this in a huge office building or an old university campus. That is a massive cost saving. It's really an efficiency tool that just happens to be an amplifier.
That makes sense. And speaking of installation, the size. This thing is, it's smaller than my phone. It's just over 3 inches by 4 inches and only an inch thick. How do you get reliable networking and amplification into a box that small?
Well, that form factor is a huge feature. You can hide it anywhere. In a ceiling, behind a monitor, no problem.
Yeah.
But the spec sheet points to a really important detail here. A 48-ohm output. And again, this isn't about raw power. It's about versatility.
Okay, so what's the practical benefit of that for the person actually installing it?
It lets you run 2 standard speakers in parallel from just one of these little boxes. So in a big installation, a hotel, a conference center, you're effectively doubling your coverage area per unit. That means you buy fewer units. It's another cost saving.
So it's high-tech, but they haven't forgotten about older systems either, right? I see an analog line-in and RS-232 control.
Right. And that's huge for retrofits. It means you can plug this modern network device into an existing older system without having to rip everything out and start from scratch.
It really seems built for serviceability, for the long haul.
It is. It has a little OLED display right on the unit to show you the IP address and status, and it's for setup. And then for maintenance later, there's an internal web server. You can log in remotely and check on it. For a system with hundreds of these, that's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
And this is where the price tag really starts to make sense, especially for a huge part of the market. The source is very clear. The product is tariff-free, it's TAA compliant, and it's made in the USA.
And that's the ticket. That TAA compliance part is everything. It signals that this product is approved for government purchasing, for huge federal contracts. You're not just buying an amplifier anymore. You're buying access to a whole new market.
So that $498 price, it's a strategic price. And the source even mentions a discount code, 10% off.
And you have to see this as one small piece of a much larger ecosystem. Aurora also makes Dante microphones, video scalers, and the REAX control touch panels that we've seen at trade shows. This little amp is the perfect endpoint for all of that. It slots right in.
So a quick recap then. We've got massive audio networking potential distilled into a tiny, compliant, remotely managed box. It simplifies these incredibly complex installations using PoE Plus and Dante.
Absolutely. The value isn't in maximizing the watts. It's about maximizing efficiency, networking, and compliance. The box is tiny because the software, that central control system like the REAX panel they mention, is doing all the heavy lifting. And that really raises an important question for you to think about. As we shift more towards these centralized software control systems, how will that change what we even demand from our hardware? What will a network device even need to do in the future? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.